I've been gone for a little while and I apologize, but time has just gotten away from me. I've been working on some client work and things like that, and before you know it, it's been a while. So I have not been painting in a very loose style lately. The work that I've been doing has required sort of loose, not realistic, a little bit loose, but not as loose as I typically paint. So I discovered the other day, coming back to it, I was a bit rusty. So I thought this would make a great video. So today's video is all about, number one, just some good practice habits, and how to get back into it, and how to really be kind to yourself about some issues that can happen when you get out of practice. So today we are going to paint pears in a very loose style. So let me show you what I've been doing and where we're going today. So a few weeks ago, I sat down and painted these pears. And I love this. I absolutely love it. I have a reel or a short on it if you want to see that. And I was very happy with this. I did have to add a lot of detail work to get happy with it, but that's okay because it turned out wonderful. Well, then I started playing with the whole pear idea, and I did this spread. Well, I'm not as happy with this spread, mainly because, I don't know, I was just out of practice and it wasn't as loose as I really wanted it. The colors really faded because I didn't use a lot of pigment. And you can tell that I started over here with these greens, and that pink is fairly pink, and moved over, and then I finally painted this one that I absolutely love. So that made me want to try again. So here I tried again. I made them larger, which was a good move. I did some different reds, which again was a good move, but they're pretty spread out. So I tried again. I just want to stress, no matter if you are a new or a seasoned artist, painting something multiple times is perfectly normal. So don't beat yourself up when it takes multiple attempts. It's not because you're new or learning. It's not because you're not talented. This is normal at every level. Every artist has to work out the details first. The finished product is rarely the first attempt. And especially when you are out of practice for whatever reason, it may take a few sessions to get your groove back. For me, painting in a loose style does not come naturally. So I need to do it regularly in order to continue to get the results that I like. I really like when the colors merge, but as you can see here, I waited too long between painting this one and painting this one so that the colors didn't merge very well. And also because the colors are too similar, you're not going to see a big difference. Now these colors are different, but again, I waited too long before I touched those two together. So let's just try all over again. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, and that's kind of exciting, I think. I am going to use my Da Vinci No. 3 mop brush. Mop brushes are extremely well for very loose, I almost said loose florals, loose painting, loose watercolors. And I am going to use some older palettes. So these are all from other projects, and I just have a little bit of pigment. I have a little bit of pigment left in each one, and I don't want to wash this down the drain. So, actually I don't wash my pigments down the drain anyway. That was a figure of speech. What I do is clean them off with paper towel and allow that to dry and then throw those away. I just think that's a little more environment friendly. And this is a new palette that my sister-in-law made for me. I love this palette, and I have some wonderful greens here. I used this for one of the other pages. So we'll just continue on with that. And this is my sketchbook. I know you guys are going to ask me about this. So I love this sketchbook. This is by Balhan, you know, my favorite paper. And I'll try to find the link to this now. I can't remember if I got it from Amazon or somewhere else, but I love this sketchbook. The paper is lovely. I used to use moleskins, but honestly, the paper in moleskins tends to be more toward the hot press side, even though when it says cold press, it still acts more like hot press. So for me, that's just not a good option. So anyway, I'm going to take low tack tape and tape all the way around my sketchbook. And I'm using this wider tape. I want to make a border, but the main reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want my pigment to leak onto the other pages in my book. So I like doing this. And I'll try to get that little margin about the same. And I wrap it all the way to the book cover to protect every one of those pages. Because I tend to get sloppy and I don't like that pigment getting onto my other paintings. Now, the other thing that I like to do is to quickly cover the paper front and back. Usually if it's loose leaf, then I do front and back. But if it's in a block, then of course I only do the top side. Or if it's in a book, then I'll only do the top side. Of course, you don't have to do this, but it does help. And I'll explain why in just one second. So on this new palette, the really nice thing about this new palette is it has a well right here. You know, and actually this is like a chip and dip tray kind of thing, or, you know, a vegetable platter or something like that. But my sister-in-law made this for me for painting and I love it. So I just keep clean water right there in the center. And I'm just using a modeler brush. It doesn't have to be very wet. We just want to dampen it. And what this does, I don't think I've ever talked about this on my channel before, and I can't believe I haven't. But this just removes that temporary sizing that manufacturers put on the paper before they ship it. And by removing this, it will allow our watercolors to soak into that 100% cotton better. And this works even if your paper's not 100% cotton, of course. Okay, now we just need a few minutes to let that dry. Okay, our paper's dry, so we can proceed. So just get some clean water in your brush. And we want a lot of water, which is why we're using a mop brush. And I'm going to put my first pear right up here. And I want the edges to go over the tape so that we can see the border. And I'm just grabbing some brighter green over here in this palette. I don't know what that green is. It's a little more yellow than sap green. I think there's sap green in it. Maybe a little green gold, I don't know. And so don't overthink this. That's the whole purpose of being loose, is being very intuitive, and pears are very odd shaped. You know, they're not just alike. So that really lends itself well to what we're doing today. We don't have to fuss over it too much. And that is a really bright yellow, green. So, and I'm just going to kind of outline it a little bit there. And I'm going to grab some other green. I think this is sap green, and okay, that's the thing about using these palettes like this is that you have no idea what colors you have. That's okay, that kind of makes it fun. Let's grab a little from this palette. Oops, okay, so I went outside the line there. And when you're being loose, you don't need to worry about mistakes. It doesn't matter. Might put in something a little darker over here for a little shadowing. That looks lovely. And I am going to dry my brush just a little bit and pick up the pigment that is pooling along that tape edge, just so we don't have a really dark line right there when it dries. There's a little bit right there. So, but you have to do that pretty quickly to get up under that tape edge, and then that will allow pigment to go back in, to smooth out, rather, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so before we go very far, we've got to do the other pears that are going to be touching it, or they're not going to merge. So because this is very light, I'm going to go with a darker green. And this one is going to be kind of half on the page, half off the page. Like that. And I'll just put a lot of pigment right there so that they do merge for certain. So when you're painting in a loose style like this, you don't want to take too much time because you want things to be moving. And I might grab some of this it's kind of a burnt orange that I had mixed up for another project, and that's very muddy, and that's okay. And I'm going to remove it from underneath that tape the best I can. See, that's rolling off. We'll just pick that up. And I want to add more to that. So I'm going to have to go to my, let's just grab this. I love using all this leftover pigment because I don't want it to go in the trash. It's too expensive, right? I need to find, I've already used that orange, so I need to find a little more red. There we go. Or else those colors are going to become very dull when they dry. Now we need to hurry up and do this one. Or really, I'm going to not touch that one so much. Maybe we'll do, I think on the other page I had done one right here. So let's do that. My chair is squeaking quite a bit, so sorry about that. Let's see. I think I had it going like this. See, and that's already dried quite a bit. And that is a large pear. That's a really large pear. But I love the way this is happening. Okay, I need to clean up those edges. That's okay. You know what? This is loose. It doesn't matter. Don't overthink it like I'm doing. That is a big blob of a pear. That's funny. I'm going to grab a little Winsor yellow to drop in. So we have some other colors. And maybe this undersea green. I know what that is. Ooh. That's dark. So when you're painting in a loose style like this, the thing you want to remember is don't overpaint it. That's the hardest thing for me. I tend to want to paint very specific, and it's really better if you don't. You just kind of get the general shape and then just drop in your colors. I need more. Of that. Let's see. What other color could we add to this? Let's add a little deep yellow. And try not to like paint it in, because then you're going to create a new color rather than seeing the green and the yellow. If you paint it in with long strokes, then see, it's going to remix and add a different color. And I'm allowing a lot of this pooling to happen because this is going to create water spots and possibly some hard lines. And that's what I really want. I want different textures and different color variances. And so the pooling is just going to help me achieve that. Pick it up just a little bit to help it dry faster, but really I'm going to leave it. Let's see, here I want to change over to my black velvet brush and do a slice, like a little wedge. So let's try to grab some of this. And that little wedge is going to go off the page, I hope. You know, we're going to have leaves and stuff in here too, so there's lots more filler coming. All right, and I want that darker. So I'm just going to drop in a little more of that pigment to deepen that color. So I went off the page more than I really wanted to, but that's all right. This is just practice, right? Okay, I'll let that dry a little bit before we come back with the other. Now while this is still wet, I just want to see, do I want to add more colors anywhere? You can't add them where they're already dry. It's really better to add them where it's still wet. So this in here is too dry, that's too dry. Because if you do, it's going to mess up that lovely blending we have going on here. So we'll just move on to the other side. This is still really wet, so we could have a pear here touching it. So let's change back to this one. And you know, let's do, I think I did a brown here before. So let's try that. I'm going to go with raw umber, I think. And let's see. How do I want this? I may have this coming off of here. I don't know. Let's see. We'll just see what happens. All right. And how about maybe some violet in with that? I think that would be really pretty. So let me, my paints in my other palette have already dried out, so now I don't know of any purple violet pears, but that's okay. We can do anything we want. And I just thought that violet would be pretty against that burnt umber. Ooh, I love that. Look at that. And look at that. Love that. All right, let's see. We have a lot of space to fill here. Let's put another one right here. Maybe like that. Let's go back to our greens. And now I'm just kind of mixing up a bunch of greens on this palette. Can you see the palette? Yes, I think you can. So that's probably olive green, green gold, and undersea green, because those are my favorite greens. So I'm just guessing that's what that is. I'm pretty sure. See, I'm not sure it would merge with that. But that's okay. We don't have to have that merging. All right, I'm gonna add a little dirty green water here. And you know, with painting in this loose style, if you don't like it when you finish, you can always take a dip pen and come back with either, you know, using black ink or a different color ink, or you can actually use watercolors with your dip pen to do some detailing. So I always make that decision after, you know. So we'll just see. Maybe we'll do that, maybe we won't. I love that. Okay, but it needs to be more color, because I think that is going to dry fairly light. So let's just dab in. That's that same color. It's a mixture of the green gold and olive green. Okay, I like that. I think I'm going to leave that one just that color. Let's see, I think I had one coming off here, and I had one over here, and I had a slice in here. So, let's do a few stems very quickly. Let's see, that one, I don't want it to bleed into that, but I do want, see, touching that brown stem made it bleed, so I really want that. That looks lovely. How about this one? Let's do one for this one too. And we could, I'm gonna wait a few minutes, but then I'm gonna come back and put a little brown dot right there. Let's go ahead and do this one. Nice. I guess we can do this one. Yep, see, that's not going to bleed too much because it's dry. Okay, let's keep moving. Guess we could put, okay, I'll just put my hand in that. Let's just put, even though you can't really, you're not going to be able to see that much, we'll put one there anyway. All right, let's see, is anything else going to be touching over here? We can have, I may change up this composition just a tiny bit. Oh, so sorry. You know, I want to be sure and get in that one, that pear right here. Let's see, let's go. It was not really touching anything. Come around. I didn't mean to do that side quite that thick, but that's all right. Just put a little shadow there. And on some of the others, I did take some sepia. I made a gray and I made a shadow on the outside. I don't know if we'll do that or not. Let's just see what it looks like when we're finished. A lot of those decisions, just make them as they happen. Let's put this stem on. Even though it's a slice, we'll still put a little stem right here. All right, let's put another one over here. We need several more. We need another one here. We're gonna have a partial one here. I may do, see, I'm changing up this composition just because things are working out a little differently. I want to use red again. So I'm going to put a pear coming off here. And that's better. Let's put a little red on that one. And I have in my larger palette, just a red that I had mixed up for another project that I'm trying to clean out that is actually about 10 different reds all mixed together, and I needed a muddy red, which is why I did that. I normally would not mix that many colors, but they were all reds and I really needed kind of a muddy, like I said, a muddy brick color. So I have a lot of that left over that I'm trying to use. All right, we're going to need a bit of a pear here and a bit of a pear there. How about, let's have these two touching. How about that? That would be better. Let's go with a darker green. I think that's a sap and something else. So we'll have like a pear like that coming off the page. So we're not going to see that much of this pear. Could make it a little bit larger. Okay. And let's just do one more right here. Wish I had more of that lighter color, and I don't know what that color was. Let's just do a smaller pear. Right there. And we've only used purple in one spot, so I think I'm going to go back and grab a little bit of that violet and add it to that one. Really like, if you're going to use a color, then use it in at least 2 places. Better if it's 3. And that washed out quite a bit. So let's add a little more. I feel a little bit rushed now. This is a larger spread, so it takes longer, and we have several things to do. I need to do the center of the pear slices. So that we're just using buff. So that's a real easy, you know, it doesn't have to be very dark, but I need to go ahead and get those in there, get that in there so that it can be drying a little bit, because we'll want to do the seeds and a little detailing while it's still damp, but not real wet. So let's just get that in there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And let's do this other slice over here. Okay, so let's let that dry for just a moment. That may be a little too light. Now, okay. We still need to do some leaves. So I'm going to take my black velvet. So for leaves, I'm going to have to move this around. I'm sorry for the noise. So I'm going to have to try to get that in the shot. So I want some leaves coming off of here, and maybe I just need to do this way. There we go. I'm going to use a darker color so that it really shows up, and so that if I overlap anywhere, it will show up. So let's do a leaf coming off of this one. Not enough pigment. Look at that. I wiped off too much. All right. So now I get to try again. Go back over it exactly. Can be a little tricky. And we can go one like that. Maybe this one needs two. To take up some of that space. I think I will go ahead and put one here. Before that's too dry. Oops, and it may be too dry already. We may have to re-wet that. I just want to drag out some detail here. So yes, I'm going to re-wet that. And I will re-wet the whole thing so that we don't have wet spots. Okay, now we just need just a little detail here where the seed is going to go. Let's take a little more clean water and just smooth that out a little bit. Okay, and we need to do this one as well. So let's just take a clean brush, clean water, and re-wet that because I'll let that dry too much. And now we can go in and add our detail. It's a little dark. It's all right. Now I'll just drag that down. When it's dry, we'll add the seeds. Okay, I think what I'm going to do here is add just the very tip of a pear. And add the stem. That'll be a long stem. And then we'll add some leaves to it. This one needs a stem. That one's kind of off. We can put a little brown for the bottom. Let's do, let's do a stem here. Let's add some more leaves and finish this up. Oh, that's a good one. I love that color. Let's go. Might put a little smaller one over here. Let's clean that up a little bit. And I think it'd be fun to have another one on top of this one. I actually want to go over it like that. What else do we want to do? Let's have one coming off here. We need to add the seeds, and we are just about done. And that's still a little wet, which is why that's wanting to spread. Okay, I feel like we need to fill up a little more space. So I'm going to have a stem coming off here. And put a few, maybe some smaller leaves coming off that. So I really want more leaves going on top, and I'm not really happy with that pear. So I am going to make one go on top of this. Use a dark color. It's a large one. Let's do a few more. I'm gonna make this one darker. So we'll just cover it over here. And we can put one one right there. This one. If you wanted to go back with the dip pen and do some detailing, you could, but I think I'm going to leave this one alone, except for I'm going to take my Deerfoot, and it's dry, and grab maybe a little bit of brown, or burnt sienna rather, and just give a few of these some textures. Like that. Maybe go with some yellow. How about, let me take that brown off and go with raw sienna. A little bit more raw sienna. And it's very dry. If it's not dry, then you're not going to get the little pen marks. You're going to get more of a brush texture. That one needs some red texture. So I didn't even put any water in my raw sienna palette. I'm just taking the dry pigment. Let's grab a little bit of that red for that one, maybe a little bit right there. And this one certainly. And again, that I'm not adding any water to that pigment. Ooh, that looks nice. Maybe some of that on this one. Oh, too much. Well, you know what you do? You can leave it. Or we could take a paper towel and try to press it up, but then that's going to just make it a brown spot rather than the texture. So we'll just kind of blend that out a little bit. There we go. Okay. That's all I'm going to do to it. Now all we need to do is take the tape off. And let's see how that looks. Ooh, that actually tore my paper a little bit. No, it didn't. It looked like it tore the paper, but it didn't. Still kind of wet, so I'm being careful not to touch it. I do have some wet spots. Ooh, and see, we had a little, it seeped under right there just a little bit. Guess I did not do a very good job of mopping up that pooling there on the seam, did I? Now, well, I hope you enjoyed that one. I sure did. This was a great little practice session. I hope you try it. If you like to paint florals and you like those petals touching and merging with other colors, this is a great practice one because it's just a pear blob. You don't have to stress over all the details of not a petal, but a flower. And I just find this one relaxing and easy to do, and that gives you that really good practice on touching and merging your colors. And it's a good one for dropping in colors or charging, as that's known. So I hope you give it a try. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you again real soon.